everyone, welcome back to White Sparrow Living, Luke 12:6. This is Wendy. Today I'm going to be doing 2 Dollar Tree fall farmhouse home decor projects and 1 little trash to treasure, even though it wasn't really trash to start with, but I'll tell you that story later. If you like these projects, don't forget to give them a thumbs up, comment, let me know what you think. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram. And if you're not already, I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button down below, as well as the little bell right next to it so that you can be notified every time I upload a brand new video. And now, without further ado, let's get started. So we're going to start with our trash to treasure, and as you can see, this isn't really trash, or it wasn't when my daughter first purchased it, and she got it at Ross for $12.99. Unfortunately, she accidentally backed over it with her car. So it got all cracked and messed up, and so I decided to pull off the letters, and I really tried to save them thinking I could salvage them, but they were all cracked and broken, and so we ended up just taking it off, and then Michael J took it outside and sanded it all down. So then I took some painter's tape and I'm going to mask off the pretty frame that's already nicely distressed. And just a little tip, if you just fold over your tape, you can get it into the corner a little easier. So then I'm going to take my Waverly chalk paint in white and just throw it onto the board and then just paint those planks and get that pretty nice and solid. So my niece Caitlin and her sweet little family just moved back home to Bakersfield from LA, and they got a new home, and so this is going to be a sign for the boys' playroom. So since they haven't been able to really do much since they moved back during the quarantine, the house is kind of bare, and so my daughter Christine is stepping up and trying to get some decor going on in at least the playroom where they're doing the homeschooling and spending a lot of their time while mom and dad work in their offices. So I just measured out the size of my board and where I want my words to be, and this is going to say boys will be boys because they have 2 twin adorable stinking babies, and we call them the archangels because they're named Michael and Gabriel, and I'll show those sweet faces to you in just a second. So I just cut out my words on my Silhouette Cameo 3 using my Frisco Craft adhesive vinyl in black matte, and I'll have this product listed in my Amazon. That's just like wall tree. Anyway, I'll have this listed in my Amazon store and also in the description box below. So now I'm also using for the first time Frisco Crafts transfer tape, and this was really neat. I had never used this product before, and so they wanted me to try it out, and it really works. There's no backing sheet to take off, which was really convenient, and it really did a great job. It wasn't too sticky, and so it was easy to take off of my project, and so I will also have this product linked in my Amazon and in the description box. I'll also have this decal available in my Etsy shop, and even if you don't have a house-shaped frame, this will work and look super cutie patootie on just a plain square frame as well. So another good thing about this transfer tape is that it's not too flimsy, and so it was a lot easier to place it on my surface. I did make it a little bit too long, that's how I measure, and so I did have to cut it apart so that it would fit onto my board. And here's my gorgeous niece Caitlin and the 2 archangels, Michael and Gabriel. And here's how this project turned out. I think it is so cutie patootie, and it's going to be perfect in their playroom. And definitely boys will be boys. The little Ninja Turtle, that used to be our son's. Well, I guess it still is if he wanted it. But he will be turning 33 in a few months, so I don't know that he really needs it anymore. But I just think this turned out so sweet, and I can't wait to see how the playroom turns out. And this isn't exactly a fall DIY, but it was something I was working on, so I thought I would share it, and I hope you guys like it. For our next project, we're going to be using this Dollar Tree wooden 3D pumpkin, 2 bandanas in black and white, and I find these where the scarves are. And then I'm going to use the lid to this box. It's Apples to Apples, the Bible edition, which I really recommend this game. And then some wood letters, and then I have some black, white, and orange 5/8 inch ribbon, as well as some orange burlap ribbon, some white string, and this is all from Dollar Tree. And then from Walmart, I'm going to be using my maize and pumpkin chalk paint, as well as some white chalk paint and antique wax, and then my hot glue gun and scissors. And so the first thing I'm going to do is pull off the raffia at the top of my pumpkin, and very carefully I'm going to take off the top parts of the pumpkin using my Cricut spatula. I did have to heat it up a little bit to get it looser, and I was able to shove my spatula underneath and pull it off without breaking them. So then I'm going to take my bandanas and cut them down to the size that I need to wrap my pumpkin and cover that completely using my hot glue gun. And I just went all the way around, and since the bandanas are so thin and light, I was able to contour it around the bottom where there's little bumpity bumps of the pumpkin. So now I'm going to do the same thing for the top parts of the pumpkin, but I'm going to do those in white. And I used the side trim so there was a lot of pattern on the top. And so for the curve, I just made little slits on the inside so that I could roll those up, and those will cover that inside curve. And then for the top and bottom, I'm just going to hot glue that down and fold it over and make sure that there's no puffy parts or anything that's gathered or looks messy. So now I'm just going to take a bunch of hot glue and place those back on top of my pumpkin, making sure that I get the right amount of spacing in between all 3 of those parts. So now I'm going to take my white string and tie a knot at the bottom, towards the bottom of the stem, and then I'm going to wrap it all the way up and kind of go over it sloppy where it's going over and not just completely flat. You could use jute twine for this, but I just thought the white would be pretty with the black and white color scheme. And then I'm going to wrap it back down to meet that first piece that I started with when I made my first knot, and tie that together. So now I'm going to take my ribbon, and I cut 6 pieces of the black and white about 5 or 6 inches long, and then I'm going to take my burlap ribbon in orange and do it the same size. So then I decided to change it up a little bit, and instead of using the smaller orange ribbon, I'm going to add some red burlap ribbon, and then I'm going to sandwich those all up, and I put 2 pieces of the smaller ribbon in between the burlap, and then 2 pieces on top and 2 pieces on bottom. And then I'm going to take a black chenille stem and wrap that around and put that on the top part of my pumpkin, and make sure that you can still see the stem above it. And then I'm going to take my scissors and dovetail all of those ends. So then I took a couple of leaves from my lamb's ear, and I'm going to hot glue that up towards the top right of my pumpkin just to give it a little bit of greenery and cuteness. And then when I was working with the burlap, it was kind of fraying, and I liked the look of some of those strings hanging out just to give it some more dimension. So I pulled some more of those strings out just to make it look even cuter. So I knew I wanted to place my pumpkin onto a big chunky piece of wood, but since I didn't have any, I had to improvise. So I liked the shape of this box, and it was already empty, and I kind of keep some boxes just like I keep my bottles and jars in case I ever need them. And remember, it's not hoarding if you use it. So I just gave it a couple of coats of the white chalk paint to cover up that bright red color and any of the letters so they wouldn't show through. And then I'm going to take my pumpkin and maize chalk paint and combine those together to give it a really streaky and pretty blended orangey color. And to make it look like a big chunky piece of wood, I just continued those slats over to the side and made those lines go down. And then I'm going to take my Waverly Wax in Antique and I'm going to just kind of darken the sides and make the lines of the planks more pronounced and give them a shadowy effect. And I think this really turns out to look like a big chunk of wood. So now I'm going to take the wood letters, and I didn't have an A, so I had to make one out of an upside down V and part of the Z. So I just used my utility knife and made the little slits of where that A should be, and I pushed it up into that corner and didn't even have to use glue or anything. So I just painted those with the pumpkin and a little bit of the yellow mixture, and then took some more of my antique wax and darkened the edges just to give it a more distressed look. And then I'm going to glue those to the bottom of the pumpkin. So now I'm going to take my hot glue and place my pumpkin on the middle of my faux chunky wood piece, get my letters down, and then I'll be all done. And here's how it turned out, and I think this is so cutie patootie. I absolutely love my paint job on my game box top. It really looks like a big chunk of wood. Because it is just the top part, I had to place something inside of it to weigh it down because it was front heavy with my pumpkin on there. And I also love the pumpkin and that pop of color with those bright burlap ribbons and the little bit of lamb's ear. I have a root beer bottle because you guys know I save bottles, and it's in that amber glass that is so pretty with this setup. And then I just popped a piece of the Dollar Tree wheat in there, and this is how it turns out. So I love this, and I hope you guys like it too. For our final project, we're going to be using 4 of these wooden houses that I never find at my Dollar Tree, and then 2 of these long wooden signs, 37 of these split wood balls, and these are 1 inch, and they're from Amazon, and I pay $11.99 for 100 of them. I'll also be getting some help from my amazing little helpers, Cadence and Carson, my grandkids, and they're going to use the Waverly chalk paint in white to paint the little half beads, and they don't have to be perfect, so this is a perfect project for them to do. What are you laughing at, Kay?
He has paint under his nose and he dropped.
Carson! Let me see you. Carson, let me see. These babies always keep me laughing in the craft room. So anyway, I'm going to take my Waverly wax and get those all nicely distressed, and then I'm going to take my painter's tape and mask off the frame so that I can paint the backs of my houses. So I'm just going to use some moss and pool and mix that all together, make a really pretty green, and then on part of them I'm going to put some blue in there, a little bit more of that blue, so that the colors aren't exactly the same for all 4 houses. And then I'll remove my painter's tape, and then it's time to make my base. So what I did is I took 1 1/2 or 1 1/4 or whatever it was. I just measured to see how long I wanted this to be, and then I took it outside and cut that apart using my miter saw. And a sweet viewer, Angela, showed me what to do with my E6000 since I'm always struggling with it. So I took the bottom of a painting sponge and hot glued that to the bottom of my E6000 tube and then rolled it up, and it does make everything so much easier when you're applying it. So thank you, Angela. So now I'm going to take a few Jenga blocks and I'm going to put those inside the open part of the second part of my sign so that when I attach it, it'll have something to adhere to on the first part. if that makes sense. So I just put a combination of E6000 and hot glue to make one long piece that will fit under my little houses. And then I'm going to take some chalk paint in the color Truffle and paint that base completely brown, and then I'll go back and distress it after we get our little letters inside of our house. So I'm going to spell out the word fall in case you couldn't figure that out. And then I'm just going to place those down using my E6000 and my hot glue and try to make all the letters about the same height within the houses. So once my base is dry, I'm going to attach my houses using E6000 and hot glue, and I'm just going to place it kind of in the middle of the base, a little towards the front. And then I don't glue in between the houses because they're not exactly lined up, but they're close. But as long as they're attached to the base, they should stay just fine. So now I'm going to make a sweet little bow using this burlap ribbon that I got from burlapfabric.com, and I'll have them listed in the description box below. But I just folded it over in thirds and then used a chenille stem and wrapped it around there and twisted it in the back. And then I'm going to hot glue that to the bottom, kind of up on top of the little ledge so that you can see it if you're standing up. And then I'm going to take some little raffia leftovers from a pumpkin and put that right on top of that. And then I'll add some lamb's ear to each side. I don't know if you guys can tell, but my voice has been kind of getting messed up, and I don't have a sore throat, but I'm kind of losing my voice. And I think it's because we've been having some major fires out here in California, and they're quite a ways away from us, but I just wanted to show you what our skies look like. And apparently this is smoke that's coming all the way down from up north, and there's about 5 fires right now. So if you guys would just say a prayer for our little California and for the firefighters and everyone who has lost their homes. So now I'm going to take one of the little orange pumpkins from Dollar Tree and place that right smack in the middle of those bows, and that side is done. You guys know I like twofers, so I decided to do something on the back as well that I can turn over and use for the Christmas season. So I decided to just paint it all white, and this is going to be a super easy one. I just got a couple of coats of the white on there, and then I'm going to use my Silhouette Cameo 3, and I purchased a design from my Silhouette store. And so I'm going to cut that out, and when you purchase those, they go downloaded into your library right away, so you can use it right then. So this is a long silhouette of the nativity scene, and then I just put the words Silent Night, Holy Night at the top, and then I'll put that on the back of my 4 houses. So now I'm going to use some buffalo check ribbon, some red berries, and an old gold piece of ribbon that was from a package at Christmas. And so I'm just going to do the same method and fold my ribbon over in thirds and make a sweet little bow. And then I'm going to put my gold ribbon on top of that and wrap it with a chenille stem and dovetail the edges. And then I'm going to hot glue that at the bottom of my houses. And then I'll take 3 of the little berries because I don't have anything out for Christmas yet, and I'll attach that to the middle of the bows. My ribbon was a little wrinkly, so I just used a flat iron to straighten that out and make it look good as new. And here it is all done, and I think this turned out so cute. And again, you can use it for both fall and for Christmas time. I've really been liking these soft light colors for fall, kind of just as a change, but I just think it's so super cutie patootie and soft and beautiful. And then on the other side, we just have our simple nativity scene. And I will have this decal listed in my Etsy shop in case you don't have a cutting machine. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, comment, let me know what you think. What colors are you guys decorating in this season? Don't forget to hit the button down below if you're not already subscribed. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. I hope everyone has a blessed day, and remember to always be the light. Bye!